Happy Monday. Welcome into Crossing Broadcast. I'm Russ Joy. You know that because you're an intelligent human being and you've been around the block and you know how this works at this point. But if you're new to the show, welcome into it's not even the Russ Joy Show. Russ Joy Show is on Tuesday and it's on Friday. And I'll drop in a quick plug. I had Jon Marks on. We're going to talk about it a little bit later because there's a little bit of Radio Wars newsy bits that came out of Friday's episode. So if you haven't done so yet, go subscribe to the Russ Joy Show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts and you can listen to the whole episode. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But first, we have so much to get into today. And it's been a while, I think, since I've been in this seat. There's no seat. I'm just standing. But it's been a while since I've done this show. It's been a while since I've gotten to see Craig, who hacked off, from what I can tell, those luscious locks that you guys don't get to see all that much. But like Craig has some great hair and now it's gone. I didn't tell him that I'm upset about it. I just saw it. I don't know who he looks like right now, but he doesn't look like Craig. He doesn't look like Craigles. He doesn't look like Bacon, Craig, and Cheese. I don't know who he is. It'd be like if Greg Brady cut off the curls and became Craig Brady. Now he's Craig Brady. What the hell's going on? I'm supposed to be one with the short hair. Craig, I'm bringing it on screen. I'm bringing it on screen. We're doing it right now. Here we are, everybody. There we go. Craig, no hair. Well, there's a little bit of hair. Craig, what happened? Where did it go?
It's just too hot.
Does it make you more aerodynamic because you like to run like 45 miles at a time?
Yeah, no, it's too hot to have the long hair, and it was just out of control. Had to go see my boys in Fishtown, Solomon's Barbers.
Okay. I mean, it's a nice cut. It's just I'm not used to seeing you with short hair. All right, anyway.
New man.
A new man.
Yeah. New man.
New month, new you. All right, there goes Craig. Bye, Craig. I feel bad because I just kind of got him out of nowhere. I didn't tell him I was going to bring him up. Didn't tell him his hair was going to be, part of the intro to today's show. But, well, it's a new Craig, and apparently it's a new Philadelphia Phillies team. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm sick of talking about the Phillies. I now understand why some people like to just live in the one-team lane and the one-team zone. I understand why there are people who are like, oh, hey, Russ, you dumbass. You have a successful hockey podcast. Where has Snow The Goalie been for a few weeks? What's going on? Why aren't you talking about them? Why are you talking about the Phillies? Why are you talking about the Eagles? Why are you talking to Jon Marks on the Russ Joy Show about Philly sports media and about Mike Missinelli and such? Like, why do that? Why talk about the Phillies? I'll tell you, I feel like I've gone pretty insane now for the last few weeks because it feels like every time I do this show or I do my show, I'm like somewhere on this spectrum of the Phillies look like the best team in baseball. The Phillies are absolute dog shit. And there's like no middle. There hasn't been a middle since just before the All-Star break. And they've looked largely disappointing since that point. And now, I don't know if you saw this or not, but this was just going around, and we'll get to it here shortly. But like the owner of the team is now kind of shading the manager. And if you read it as anything else, by all means, let me know in the comments. Perhaps it's just me being some kind of hyperbolic jackass, which I have been known to be from time to time. I'm rocking the Russ stash, and as we all know, Kinker hates the Russ stash, hates mustaches. He thinks I'm a jackass. You might think I'm one too. But I genuinely have been in this spot where it's like, the Phillies, I would like the Phillies to be good. I enjoy having a good baseball team. Can we at least get decent, like 500 baseball out of the Phillies? And for a while here since the break, it's been no, you may not. You may have vastly under 500 baseball. You may have stretches where you are genuinely concerned that multiple starters in your rotation are nursing injuries. You may have been at a point where you say, wow, MVP Bryce Harper doesn't look like the same guy, doesn't even look like a shell of himself. He looks like less than that, like he did against the Yankees. Like you had moments where you're like, man, I don't know. Are they going to be able to pull the nose up on this thing? Then they go out and they win 3 of 4 against the Nationals, and they drop the series finale, which is disappointing and which we will talk about because there was a very questionable decision made. But before we get there, let's have a moment here. Let me know in the comments where you're at on the Phillies right now. Do you believe that they're going to be able to get back to pre-All-Star break Phillies that were winning at a historic clip, that looked like a team that could I say easily, but there was a very realistic path to getting to 100 wins. And then it all kind of fell apart. It was starting to get close in the division, 5.5 game lead over the Braves. The Mets were at like 7 games or 7.5 back. It started to look like, oh shit, like you let 2 teams remain in somewhat legitimate contention? Is it going to blow up? And we'll go over to the comments, the questions, comments, and concerns. I saw earlier that Craig pulled up a comment from Matt Klein over on Facebook. Thanks for checking in over there, saying he's getting his Philly sports fill in Iowa. But let's go over to Matt Klein here. They're scaring the shit out of me, says Matt. Matt, make sure you find that Cottonelle, that Charmin. Get the 2-ply ready. I feel like it's going to be like this from now until whenever their season ends, hopefully with them hoisting that beautiful World Series trophy. Rico over on YouTube says, we will see. Rico, that is not far enough. All right, Rico goes on here, a little bit of an expansion, expounds upon his thoughts. Atlanta and the Royals will be a nice test. And I think the Braves series, I mean, we're going to talk about that here in a second. The rotation is set up in a way that if there's ever a time to put the Braves out of contention for the NL East, if there's ever a time to potentially kill their hopes of making the postseason or really giving that a blow, it's this series coming up now. Now, we can't pull it up on the screen, but I do see people commenting live over on Instagram Live. So I'm going to go over there as well. Craig, you can't see it. I can. I'm like, what's his name? Haley Joel Osment in Sixth Sense. I see Insta people. This guy, Chimichanga Kid. I love that name. They'll get there. Just wish they didn't have to hype themselves up by the time the playoffs come every year. It's a totally fair criticism. It's a totally fair critique. 100%. It feels like every year this Phillies team has gotten themselves into contention to be a good enough team. We never really expected them to beat the Braves this season. Obviously, the Braves have sustained a lot of injuries. The Phillies were winning at a historic clip. Everything all the stars were aligning. But we don't usually expect the Phillies in this division to have a significant enough lead at this point in the year. And there was that concern. It was sometime around the All-Star break, but there was a concern of will the team get complacent? Will we start to see this team not go for the win the same way that a desperate team does, or that a second-place team does, or a team that's trying to scrap and claw and scratch for a wild card spot does? I think there's a legitimate question about whether or not this Phillies team got complacent. I think it's probably fair to say, just based on how things have gone, that yes, there was some complacency or something up here between the ears got off with this team. We'll go over to this one, Craig. I saw you had it pulled up. Danny Gerb over on Facebook says, consistently inconsistent. Good team goes cold at the craziest, most inopportune times. Still have PTSD from last season. I think we all do. If you care about the Phillies in any way, right? Even if you're a casual, let's have this moment, right? I've done this on the Russ Joy Show, so I'll do it here on Crossing Broadcast, just so that we level set. I want everybody to understand where I'm at with the Phillies, right? I enjoy good baseball. I love great baseball. I don't like watching or even listening to the soundtrack of summer for a bad baseball team, which is what we had been given for almost a decade in this city. We got spoiled. Yes, fair. We got spoiled from 08 to 12. 100%, hands down. We thought that was a window to win multiple World Series. A-okay. Then things went into flux, and it's normal. Even if you're a big money team, it's still normal. And then over the last few years, we've started to get back to very good baseball, potentially great baseball, and then unfortunate streaks where you just had hitters get unbelievably cold. And maybe not historically cold, but kind of like an Eskimo's asshole cold. It was very cold in this lineup in the World Series a couple years ago. It got cold last year in the postseason, and then you have to hope that the pitching is able to keep you in games and that the few and paltry efforts at the plate produce enough runs for you to advance. We all had to have been concerned here in the last few weeks that this isn't good. Some combination of Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, JT Realmuto, MVP Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos. Somebody's got to do something right. Throw Alec Bowman there. You had a bunch of guys who early in the season were like, wow, you have 4 guys that are in the top 5 of the NL ERA leaders. You had multiple guys being mentioned as potential Cy Young candidates. On the at the plate, you had a bunch of guys who were putting in potential MVP seasons, right? There was a stretch where Bowman looked like a potential MVP. There were stretches that Trey Turner looked like a potential MVP. There were times where people were back to saying JT Realmuto is the best catcher in baseball. Bryce Harper had a few moments. Schwarber started, tearing the cover off the ball. Everything looked good. But the problem is that as the season started to get away from this team around the All-Star break, he started to worry. And there had to be at least a part of this fan base who said, oh shit, not again. Now, one guy said before, there's that PTSD because we've all kind of lived and died with this team over the years. Yes, it was fair to be concerned. And if you found yourself, let's say even a week ago, saying, I'm genuinely worried that they're one bad, pitching injury and maybe one injury at the plate away from this season getting away from them, and the Braves leapfrogging, and maybe even the Mets getting back into contention, guess what? You weren't crazy. You weren't. I was saying the same thing. I will reiterate what I've said on the other show, which you should go subscribe to. The starting rotation is a concern to me still. Okay, now we're about to potentially see Wheeler, Nola, and Christopher Sanchez as your 3 starters in the Braves series. That's what is at least the anticipation right now. If Zach Wheeler is healthy, he is an ace. If Aaron Nola, I don't know what we're supposed to say. If Aaron Nola just pitches to his ability and doesn't get rattled up here, he has ace stuff. He has the stuff that makes people say, oh, he could be a Cy Young candidate. But there are too many other factors. There are too many other things that he gets just totally thrown off by that don't allow him to find any kind of real consistency. Christopher Sanchez had a really great start of the year, even coming out of the break, had some good moments, but ultimately he's a 4th starter, and you can't expect him to pitch at an incredible level that you would expect like a number 2 in a rotation to perform at. But there is a path here that you could end the NL East race in this series with the Braves in Atlanta. Go down there and sweep. We don't say it's over. Baseball's a long season. We all know how this works. But you enter that series up 7 games. You get a sweep and walk away up 10 with a month-ish to play. Not saying it's a done deal, but it's pretty damn close. Don't puke on yourselves for the rest of the season after that, and you're in a pretty solid position, right? We can all agree on that. Go down and win 2 of 3. That's fine. Extend the lead in the division. You can't go to Atlanta now and get swept. That would be catastrophic. Going down and losing 2 of 3 would be catastrophic. If you get swept, all right, which in fairness, based on how the last few weeks have gone, here I am kind of going back to everything's rainbows and smiles. We're out of the woods. We're out of the line, right? We're about to go find the Wizard of Oz. Maybe it's John Middleton. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's Rob Thomson. Perhaps we're going to find that the great wizard of the lineup card is actually just a dude behind a curtain. Maybe we'll find that. We'll get to that in a second with Middleton. But if you lose, if you get swept and this becomes a 4-game lead, then all of a sudden everything's back in play. Because if that happens, and if the Mets go out and have a good series, then all of a sudden 2 teams once again feel like they're back in it. That's how this series actually does kind of line up as being a must-win series, not maybe a must-sweep series, but certainly one that matters. Certainly one that would effectively end the division race and allow your starting lineup, which, does go cold from time to time, to have 1 or 2 bad stretches between now and when the games actually matter in the postseason. I'll go over to the comments. I want to see where people are at. T from the TO3 checks in over on YouTube, says, what up? Matt Klein says, it feels like when they get comfortable with the best team in baseball thing, then they seem to lighten up play. I think that's fair. Again, that's like that complacency piece. That's where the whole good vibes, guys. The vibes are great. Great in the locker room. You can't trade anybody. You can't part Garrett Stubbs because the vibes are great, man. They're great. Which is the kind of bullshit that just drives me nuts. You can't sign Trevor Bauer, man, because the vibes are great. This clubhouse can't handle that, man. We talked about Trevor Bauer on the other show. So before anybody decides to, go fucking crazy here in the comments, context, go check out the Russ Joy Show. We talked about it. Trevor Bauer and everything. But you can't tell me after what we saw from Taijuan Walker that Trevor Bauer is a worse option. You can't tell me that. You can't, from a baseball perspective. All right. You want to say, hey, bad things, bad accusations. Totally fair. The Phillies didn't release Odubel Herrera when his domestic assault charges came out. Just pointing that out. There are people who will also say the Trevor Bauer thing was made up. There are people who say that. I'm not saying that they're right. There are people who say he's been cleared. Legally, that's a little bit tenuous. But like Trevor Bauer right now is a better option as a fifth starter than Taijuan Walker. If you're looking at it from a baseball perspective, if you're looking at it from anything other than that, fine. You certainly can. Maybe I just lit a powder keg in the comments. We'll see. Sometimes you mention the name Trevor Bauer and everybody loses their shit. We'll see. JD Reds says two things. Shows you the manager he is. I guess talking about Thompson. Shows you what kind of leader Harper is. Flip side of the terrible in-game decision to not hit for Stevenson is why isn't Bryce or JT coming to Topper and saying, we want to hit, put me in? Bryce is the so-called leader of the team, right? If he's that guy, he should have been grabbing at the bat as soon as Sosa got on. That's what real leaders do when they want to be in that spot with the game on the line, right? Yes. That's actually the bigger concern that I had. I'm not going to like blow this up into a big thing, but like there should be a concern that like late in the game with a chance to win, with a chance to like, pull off a sweep here, with a chance to like just go up and have a big moment, that neither the manager nor the, effectively the captain of the team, Bryce Harper, were like, yo, put me in. It's time. Like, this is my moment. Let me go deliver. And then Rob Thomson comes out and says, well, I wanted to give those guys a game off. They have today off. I don't know a time that I can remember. Maybe somebody does. Maybe somebody in the comments is like, I remember back in the 80s, this was the decision that was made. Back in the 50s, this is the decision that was made. Back in 1993, like, spare me, okay? I want my leaders to step up in big moments and to deliver, to lead by example. Am I to believe that if this Philly, like if that situation had played out in 2008, 2009, Chase Utley has a day off followed by a full day off for the team. Chase Utley's not going to Charlie Manuel and saying, put me in, let me deliver a hit. Let's go out and win this game. There's absolutely no way Chase Utley doesn't take the bull by the horns. Jimmy Rollins likely does the same thing. Ryan Howard likely does the same thing. Carlos Ruiz might even have done it. Raul Ibanez absolutely would have. Jamie goddamn Moyer might have come down from the bullpen and put a bat in his own hands if he thought he could deliver for the Phillies. Why were Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto not in Topper's face? Get one of us in. Let one of us hit. That bothers me. You can have the whole thing. Oh, they're cold. They're cold, Russ. They don't expect to go in that situation. You don't want them to pull a muscle. Jesus, is that where we're at now? Like, really, is that where we are? As a Philadelphia fan base, is that where all of you are now? Have we gone that soft?
If you put Bryce Harper in, if he's not ready, if he hasn't been taking swings down in the cages, he could go up there and pull an oblique. And then what happens, Russ?
Then you have 5 other guys that you're paying significant money to actually go out and hit the goddamn ball. That's what happens.
Russ, if JT Realmuto goes out there, and if JT Realmuto has the opportunity, and he goes up and he pulls a muscle, he pulls his hamstring running out the ball to first base, then what?
Then you hope that somebody's able to fill in for the best catcher in baseball. Then maybe Vibes guy Garrett Stubbs actually delivers for you. Or not. I don't know. Again, the team didn't feel the need to go out and get a catcher at the deadline because they're happy with #vibes. Okay. And you can have the whole thing where it's like, wow.
Russ, stop treating baseball like it's the NFL. There are 162 games. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Every game matters. And when you are that close to potentially putting the division out of reach and giving yourself the ability to maybe take some time to get healthy, to get rested for the postseason, that's when it matters. Yes, absolutely go for the win. Why not? Am I crazy? Did I wake up in St. Louis? Did I go to sleep and wake up in San Diego? Because there was a time where fans in this city would have been actively pissed off that neither of those leaders, of those highly paid players, wanted to go into the game, force their way into the game.
Russ, he can't force his way into the game. Bryce Harper can't put himself in the game. You see, Topper's got to actually, he has to submit that change. And without the manager's permission, he can't go, that's bullshit and you know it. Bryce Harper has this exorbitant contract. Bryce Harper in the offseason said, I want an extension. An extension would be nice. It'd be great to get even more years. All right, you want it? Then go out and get it. There's your moment. And again, it doesn't matter, right? 162 games. But it does matter. It's the message you're sending to everyone else. It's the message you're sending to those paying fans. It's a message that you're sending to the NL East. Yes, it's only one game. We are going for it. We want to win this division. We want to be the best team. We want the best record in baseball. We want to win the pennant. Not doing it. Like, what are we doing? Seriously. And again, it's not like the Phillies. We're playing the next day. They're off. Bryce Harper can't go out and swing. He can't have an at-bat at the end of a game. He needs to have that day off plus this day? I don't get it. I don't get it. Going over to the comments. Going to go to the comments. Let's see. Craig, I don't even know what you brought up. You might have brought some of these up and you might not have. We're going to go up to Reed DeFord. Reed DeFord. Don't forget the great fold of 1964. How many times does my grandfather told me that story? Don't get comfortable with any lead. I don't know why I made him like a shivering British man, but like I appreciate it still. Let's see. Nico checking in on the Rustache. Appreciate that. Robert said that the expectations are still low. Boomer! Thank you, Boomer! Boomer on X. There's no reason we don't try to win that game. Thank you, Boomer. Robert also agrees. Boomer says, Bryce lives for that moment. Then where was he? Was Bryce Harper there? Was Bryce Harper having a cheesesteak somewhere? Was Bryce Harper pooping? Where was Bryce Harper? I assume he was in the dugout. Again, if anybody out there, I would love, I'll invite you on the show. I'll invite you on the Russ Joy Show tomorrow. If there's somebody out there who wants to argue that this is ultimately Rob Thompson's decision, he doesn't have to listen to Bryce Harper,
I would love you to make that, make that point. Please, try. You will lose, but try. Kevin at I Rock Philly over on YouTube. I watch more baseball than just the Phillies. Other teams give a player a day off and then have him pinch hit later in the game. Thompson's being ridiculous. I agree. Totally agree. Let's see. James on X says my kids were out of control, harassing customers. That's not true. It's not true. Fake news. Excuse me. I'll go to X. James, liar, cheater, horrible guy. This James, total liar, fabricator. That's Jester James. You can't take him serious. He's a joke, folks. He's a joke. So sad. Go try the Swedish meatballs. Eat some lingonberry jam. Let's continue. JD, thank you, JD. On the same page. Appreciate you. The Blue Demon and Friends Productions. Hello, Blue Demon. Hello. Thank you for checking in. They won 3 of 4. Yes, they did. You know what I like? I like when you go out in a divisional game and you stick it to the opposition and you actively try to put yourself in position to get that win. Because while it seems like only one win, it seems like Russ is insane. The division could ultimately come down to that one game, to that one win, to that one decision, not to pinch hit Bryce Harper or JT Realmuto. This is why I feel like an insane person today. The game is in reach. You have won 3 of 4. You are about to have a day off as a team. Go for the win! Okay. Craig, you think I blew anybody's headphones out on that one? Maybe. Matt Klein says, where's So Taguchi when you need him? I agree. I miss So Taguchi. They should have done a Disney Channel spinoff, by the way, or like NBC Sports Philly could have, or Comcast Sportsnet. That's So Taguchi. Like that's So Raven. No? Okay. Millennial joke. Craig got it. All right, we're good. That's at least one. Chris Talbot calls me Ben Falcone. Hurtful. Expects the Phillies to win every game. Relax. No. Again, 162 games, fine. You have the chance to sweep a division team. Sweep the team. Put yourself in position. All right? We're not saying put Bryce Harper in for 3 innings against the Nationals. We're not saying put JT Realmuto behind the plate for 5 extra innings, okay? We're talking about going up and swinging the bat, which they get paid very exorbitantly for. It's not that complicated. Danny, by the way. That's Ben Falcone. All right. I mean, I'm fine with like the Nate Bargatze one. That one I've gotten used to. For a little bit there, I was getting like the Will Friedle from Boy Meets World, the older brother, when I had like the beard, not the stash. I don't know about this one. Like maybe I do this with the hair. Like if I do that, does that work? Craig, does that work? I can't look at the screen and that at the same time. Okay. Just going to put it back. All right. Anyway, Danny says, come on, it's a day game with alums in attendance. That fits the Phil's storytelling. To lose that one, it's all a bit, right? I don't actually know. That seemed like word salad. Craig, can you make sense of that? It's the idea there that like this is a bit, me being upset about them not pinch hitting is a bit. It's not a bit. It's me just saying, like, go for the win. Sorry. I apparently have triggered some people today. The people, by the way, all of you people right now who are going out of your way to do the whole,
It was just a game. It was just one game. It didn't matter.
if the Phillies get swept by the Braves, and this becomes a 4-game lead, if the Phillies don't win the NL East, if the Phillies lose out on the best record in the National League and lose home field advantage because of one game, there will be other games that we will likely circle, we will highlight, and we will point out. But I am merely pointing out that this one happens to be another one of them where you say, what exactly was the manager thinking? Jamie checks in over on YouTube. Hello? You play to win the game. Craig, can you pull up the quote that came out from Middleton? Because this is actually the thing that I think we do have to have a moment on. Russ is crazy. Possible. Maybe. But John Middleton, the owner of the team, happened to have a pretty brutal quote. So here was Middleton's take. I believe this is from the Philadelphia Inquirer, Scott Lauber. Middleton's take on the Phillies' 18-8 spell. Quote, it's a significant issue. I don't think you can I don't think you can just sit there and say, oh, well, this has happened, and therefore we'll turn it around. I don't think you can be that passive, he continued. I think you have to be pushing people to rethink what they've been doing. That's coaches and that's players. Everybody has to step back and say, what are we doing wrong? Why is a team that was winning at a 700 clip for 3.5 months now playing at 325 clip for the last 5 weeks? Russ says, go for the win. People say, it's just one game. Owner of the team goes out and says, significant concern. Interesting. It's just me. I'm a loon guy. It's only me. 8-18 is bad. I'm going to actually go over to Instagram Live really quick. Hot Sauce Palm Trees, another great name over on Instagram Live. That nonchalant 18-3 loss to Oakland is eyes now. It's a standout now. Scheduled loss, nonsense. Jeez. That A's series was bad. There was I'm not talking to you, Siri. Good God. All right, I feel like I've now yelled at the Phillies enough. Have I yelled at the Phillies enough, Craig? Was there another quote that you wanted to get to? I saw you scrolling over there. Are we okay? I think that was it. I'm not saying, oh, okay. Oh, there's more. Is this Middleton again, I guess? Yes. You have to understand your limitations, your strengths, and your weaknesses. Let other people who can do those jobs better than you do the job. It's also a reason why I'm careful about not being around the players and the coaches too much. It's actually pretty telling on the part of John Middleton. Stays out of it, lets the coaches and the players do their thing, tries not to be around them, tries not to influence them, lets the people who are good at their job do their jobs. That's respectable. It's an entirely fine thing to do. It's an entirely fine way to look at it. Kudos to John Middleton for doing the right thing. But again, He sees it as a concern. It is a concern. 8-18 is not great. This Braves series, again, and then we're going to move on. Braves series has the ability to take all of the bad taste out of everyone's mouth from the All-Star break on. You go out and sweep the Braves in Atlanta, all of a sudden, everything feels great. Everyone's happy. Everything's hunky-dory. We're all back in. And then you can kind of experiment down the stretch and everything's fine. But again, like this thing can flip on its head. Every time I've been ready to say, Phillies are on their way to the NL East. They're on their way to the pennant. They're on their way to the World Series. Every time I've been there, the Phillies have then gone out in the next series and gotten their shit kicked in, right? Like, it's not great. Not ideal. Go over to the comments really quick before we leave. Kevin over at I Rock Philly says, Phillies currently have an 8-game lead on the Braves. If they get swept, it'll be a 5-game lead, not 4. Good point. Good math, Kevin. 5-game lead, not 4. This is why I need people to keep me honest with the math. Robert over on X says, no, this team has World Series talent. Topper is not maximizing it. Once again, they care more about players being comfortable than winning. That's a bold take. Bold. Hashtag be bold. Where is Gabe these days? Where'd Gabe Kapler go? We're going to move on here in a second. Really quick, I saw Jose Nunez check in. Jose has followed me from here to the Russ Joy Show, where we talk about the Union sometimes. Says, if the Union make it to the League's Cup final and play on Sunday, am I showing up? No. Probably not. Maybe. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. I've stayed away all season. It's been a stand-on principle thing. It's funny. We'll talk about this on tomorrow's show. Talk about this on the Russ Joy Show tomorrow. But like, everybody was calling out the Union for being absolute bastards about everything. Taking banners, meeting with the Sons of Ben, whole bunch of lip service, and the Union have just gone on a masterful tear, and now they find themselves in the semifinal of the League's Cup. So we're gonna tack that one up. That's another one of those great moments in Philly sports where you feel like you have an idea of what's going on, and then everything goes sideways. All right, before we get on to the last thing, which is actually a very interesting thing. If you're a Radio Wars person, and if you missed this, you're going to love this. You're going to love it. We're going to get there in a second. But first, I do want to point something out. You may have noticed in the description of the episode, you may have noticed over on crossingbroad.com. This is Craig's cue to pull that up. We're like 2 days away now, as of recording, from an exclusive opportunity for Crossing Broad readers, people who watch or listen to Crossing Broadcast, and it comes from our friends at PokerStars. So we are working with on an exclusive online tournament. If you already have the app, it's easy to get yourself in on the action. If you don't have a PokerStars account, they have both online casino and online poker. You go over to crossingbroad.com, find this story. It's sitting on the homepage about the exclusive tournament. Click on our link, sign up. It's a bet one, get $150 bonus bets offer. Fantastic. 21 plus and present in participating states. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We got that in. They're doing the first ever Pennsylvania Poker Championship. It's at Philly Live, down at the Live Casino by the Sports Complex. They're doing the in-person tournament this week. The final is on Sunday. We're doing our online tournament with PokerStars Wednesday night at 8 p.m. So if you download the app, you have the app, you get the new user offer, or you've been a player for a long time, we have all of the steps written out. All right. I went into excruciating detail. But the nice thing here is if you win our online tournament, which is only Crossing Broad readers, it's not a massive list of people necessarily, right? If it's like you and 10 other people that are like, oh, we're going to sign up and play, then you have a 1 in 10 chance. If 3,000 Crossing Broad readers decide to get in, all right, well, then fine. Maybe your odds are a little bit longer, but that's fine. Go up real quick, Craig. So Wednesday's online tournament, if you win it, you win a Silver Pass. Silver Pass is good to use on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. That includes the $550 fee to enter the tournament with a $200,000 grand prize. And it includes $450 for a hotel, food, and beverage. So that's great. So that's all outlined here. But the cool thing is, not only do you potentially win that buy-in and that food and drink credit and hotel and all that, in theory, if you outlast all the other online players on Sunday at the final, And if you do, by the way, congratulations. Seriously, if you do. If you outlast all the other online players, you can actually end up going to Vegas. So we'll go down. Go down, Craigles. Whoever wins, like whoever gets the farthest as a silver pass player, as an online player, whoever gets the farthest gets a gold pass. The gold pass can be used in Las Vegas. There's a massive tournament, the NAPT tournament in Vegas in November. If you outlast all the other online players and you win, all that, you'll get the $5,300 buy-in in Vegas paid for. You'll get hotel accommodations, $2,900 value, and you'll get $1,800 for expenses like your flight, food, and beverage. It's $10,000 in potential bonuses. Now, do I know for certain that a Crossing Broad reader will win on Wednesday night in the online tournament? Yes, that's how this works. It's only for Crossing Broad readers, viewers, listeners. Do I know for certain that that person will go on to play on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, the day of their choice? Yes, I do know that. Do I know that that person will ultimately make it to Sunday? No. Do I know that that person will ultimately outlast all the other online people and go and play in Vegas? No. But I will tell you that if you end up winning, if you enter our tournament, if you win on Wednesday, if you go on Thursday or Friday or Saturday, outlast everybody, make it to Sunday's final, outlast all the online players there, and make it to Vegas, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll send Pagan with you and maybe video guy Craig, and like, you guys can go have fun in Vegas, and we'll do a whole thing about it. It'd be awesome. So if you haven't done so already, go over to crossingbroad.com. Go check out the story over there. Has all of the details about the tournament, how to play, all that, how to sign up if you're a desktop user, if you're a mobile user, whatever. We have all of it over there for you. So listen, at the very least, you win on Wednesday night, it's $950 worth of bonuses. The buy-in for an in-person day plus the $450 for the hotel, food, and beverage. It's a pretty great deal, only open to our readers and listeners. Okay, so that's that. All right, we're going to get to one last thing. Craig, I believe, already has it queued up. I'll throw this to Jose really quick. Jose is going to jump on the show tomorrow. Going to check it out. Check out the live stream tomorrow. Mustache looks nice. Thank you, Jose. Also notes that he's going to clip this for when Kincaid has to send him to Vegas with Pagan. Kincaid will have nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. I don't even know if Kincaid knows what PokerStars is. But you know who does? Russ Joy. You know why? Because Russ Joy has to do the sports betting and online casino content, right? And Big Bet Bob, we got this on lock. If I said to Kinker right now, yo, Kinker, you going to go sign up for that tournament?
How do I sign up for that?
I'd be like, well, Kinker, it's over on the site.
Yeah, maybe I might sign up for that.
Craig might sign up. We should actually get the entire CB staff to participate. I think we're allowed to, but maybe we shouldn't because it might be a conflict of interest. I don't need people saying that it was a rigged tournament. Craig, you going to enter? Craig's not going to enter. He's being a good employee of this company. He doesn't want it to come off as rigged. Good on you, Craig. So anyway, go read about that. All right. Last thing today. It's a Radio Wars thing. A Radio Wars story. Radio Wars. It's not on the site. I sent it to Kinker. I'm going to probably have to write it up myself. Radio Wars story. Came out. Some breaking news. Because I double checked. I was kind of like looking all over. Look high, look low. Look everywhere that Jon Marks might go. On Friday's episode of the Russ Joy Show, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, we talked about Philly sports media. We talked about Philly sports talk radio. We talked about his career with the Fanatic and with WIP. And then we talked about the fact that I brought up on this show, on my show, on anybody who would listen's show, that I thought once he left WIP, he had two places he could go. PHLY or 97.5 The Fanatic. And on the PHLY side of things, maybe that's still in play. I have no idea. I know that he filled in for Gargano. When Gargano was out, they would be smart to hire him. But I was like, yo, 97.5, it makes all the sense in the world. They have a new program director. I was like, it makes a lot of sense. This is before Missinelli went to 97.5 for middays. I was like, yo, it makes all the sense in the world. Jon Marks goes back to the Fanatic, where he worked at one time. And maybe Jon Marks goes and he takes the afternoons. Now, he had said one of the reasons for him not wanting to go do afternoons anymore at WIP was because his kids are getting older and that meant something to him, that being available for his kids meant something to him. So I didn't see a scenario where he was going to want to go out of his way to like go compete in the afternoons again. Now, all that said, I think we all know how money works here, right? If the money is good, if the money is right, you may say, on second thought, I like the financial situation, the lucrative nature of potentially doing drive time radio. Or I thought, maybe he would make sense in middays. This is back after Gargano had left. Sal Chunas was there. It was like, Jon Marks has a lot of listeners. They would go follow him. He would enjoy it. Then I thought, maybe the mornings. Jon Marks did mornings with Gargano. If you remember, back after Mike and Mike, 97.5 decided they wanted to try to compete in the mornings. Jon Marks was doing the show with Gargano and MCW, and I feel like there was somebody else, and now I feel bad if I forgot them. But like that could have been on the table as well. So if you go and listen to that whole thing, you'll learn like which time slot he liked the most, which one he would have had the most interest in, all that. But there was a really notable moment from the show. And it was for all the people like me who thought like, well, okay, Jon Marks left WIP. Could he have potentially gone off and done something with the Fanatic? Could he? Was it even a conversation? Again, the Fanatic let go Joe Bell, who was about to retire. And then within like a month, Mike Missinelli's back in middays. I know a couple of other people who maybe did or did not have at least exploratory discussions with the station. There are always feelers being put out. People who left the station got let go by the station. They maybe see new program director Scott Masteller come in. Maybe they say, let's get a little gauge of the temperature. Okay, fine. So all that happens. And I'm like, all right, John, where are we at right now? Like 97.5. Is it in play? This is what happens. Craig, let's go to the clip. 97.5, back up the Brinks truck, have you save the afternoons.
They drove the DoorDash into my driveway. There was no Brinks truck from the Fanatic. I'll say this, that like there was interest from the Fanatic. I was interested if everything was right. It wasn't. Right. A lot of times in life, but also in this business, it comes down to timing. People have contracts and whatever else. And it was like what they had potential interest in me to do, I had no interest at all. So the Fanatic was interested. They weren't bringing a Brinks truck, that's for sure. But I could have done the Fanatic. But you know what? Like sometimes, especially with where we are right now, I feel like that you got to bite the bullet. I got to figure out what the next thing is. I got to figure out the digital world, and I need to take my lumps. That's why I do the YouTube stuff, just so I can figure out like what's this audience? What do I need to do? That's what's gonna be the next thing. So I feel comfortable with where I'm going from here.
So all kinds of wild stuff, there, right? Like absolutely wild stuff. Why do I say it's wild? Because how many times have I come on this show? How many times have I gone on my show? How many times have I gone out of the shows and said, there's a second big sports station in town, and half the time I feel like their parent company doesn't know they exist. And then I occasionally have people who are like, well, there's actually a third station. There's the Gambler. Lovely people. They're not the same. It's just not. Okay? Respectfully, lovingly, talented people. It's not the same. It's not a 3-horse race in Philly. It's a 2-horse race. So 97.5, you had a potential there, right? You knew that Mike Missinelli's been in play for months. Months. By all accounts, Missinelli wanted to wait until closer to football season because he wanted to have football and baseball to talk about. And then you're not far from Sixers and like, it's a great time. Why take away your own summer when you don't need to, when you've made enough money? Why get back on the radio in June to only talk about baseball? It made no sense, right? So 97.5 knew Missinelli is available. I knew months and months ago, and it was pretty well known, I think, that Jon Marks' contract was coming up. I believe that Marks had signed a 1-year deal. I think his deal was actually up the year before with WIP, and he worked on a 1-year deal. I think he confirmed that with either me or Kincaid or both of us on this show. So like there have been 2 different windows where the guy who was beating you in the afternoons was going to be available, and nobody either made an offer or made a compelling enough offer to get him to jump. You might think that that doesn't matter. You might think that WIP is an institution and they're going to win afternoons no matter what. You may be right. You may be wrong. But I was like, man, Missinelli was in play. Marks was in play. Maybe you're able to go out and get somebody else to either defect from the other station or to come back into the market. I always go back to Mike Golick would be a brilliant hire for the morning on the Fanatic, would be a sensational hire. Put him and Sal Chunas together. Could be a really good morning show. Missinelli's in middays. You could have had Marks in the afternoon. You could have done whatever you wanted. Marks could have done it by himself. You could have used somebody. If you wanted Tyrone to be the co-host, if you wanted Bill Colarulo, who's doing the show with Mike now, to do the afternoon with Marks, you could have done that. And instead, like, they didn't back up the Brinks truck. They pulled the DoorDash into my driveway. Shit. That's not great. That's not great at all. I want to go over to the comments here really quick. Jamie says over on YouTube, went to the 97.5 website. They still don't have Mike's show listed under any shows. How are they this dumb? I don't know if it's dumb. I think there's just a lot of inept people. Their new program director, from all accounts, by all accounts, has been like a positive. I don't think it's his fault. I honestly don't know whose fault it is. Again, like, I think that there's a way to program that station to be at least relatively competitive. Missinelli is going to do wonders potentially for the afternoon show, which I still don't think is good. But him being there is going to give them a much stronger lead-in than what they had before. And I think that Bob Cooney is a nice guy. Bob Cooney did a nice job in that slot, but he wasn't winning middays. And I don't think there was really a scenario to get him to win middays. So, like, Missinelli there, stronger lead. We got into all of this on Friday's Russ Joy Show. Seriously, go listen to it because we dove into a lot of detail, and I don't want to relitigate and rehash all of that. I want to go to this tweet, though, because I put that clip out earlier, and then I saw a former Fanatic host, Eitan Shander, quote tweeted it and said that wild that one station just refuses to put anything towards a winning strategy while the other can put their feet up and do nothing while still crushing. This is the point that I've come back to a million times. If you're WIP, you have no incentive to change what you're doing. If you're the Fanatic, you should be doing something different. Please, just do anything different. Literally anything different. They still refuse to. I don't understand what's going on over there. Missinelli is a really big step in the right direction. But again, if you were that close to having Jon Marks as well, you could have had two legitimately strong shows as the alternative. You could have. I'm going to be really interested to see what Missinelli's ratings look like in the next ratings book, like when we get to take a look back at this, because this is a weird time, right? In August. He starts mid-August. You really probably want to look at that book for the last quarter of the year. So we won't really know until the start of 2025 how he did in the midst of like football season and everything. But I think it's going to be a good strategic move from them. But again, if you had the ability to have him and to have Marks, I don't know how you don't like make that work. I don't get it. Let's see. Last thing I wanted to get over here. Kevin asks, did 97.5 offer Marks to replace Tyrone at 3 p.m. or mornings? I don't know. Go back and listen to the episode, though. If I'm to believe that he didn't want to do afternoons, he says in the interview that like they didn't want to do what he wanted to do. He also said he likes mornings. So that could either be they didn't want to give him mornings or they wanted to give him afternoons, is my guess, is my hunch. I think they always intended on having Mike be the midday guy. Now, unfortunately, I do have to leave. I have to go. I have meetings from now until late in the afternoon. And there is some unfinished business here in the comments. So I will once again encourage you, make sure you go subscribe over on YouTube to the Russ Joy Show. Join me every Tuesday and Friday, 8 a.m. for that show. Going to push it back. Going to probably change the time to 8:30 as football season begins. We'll talk about that at some point. Go subscribe to the show over there. You can join me live every Tuesday and Friday morning, unless I change that. You can join me there. We get into all the radio stuff. We get very into detail. Sometimes I flame people in a way that would make Kincaid uncomfortable, so I don't do it on this show anymore. Go subscribe. I promise it'll be worth it. The conversation with Marks was insightful, was very good, and I think you'll probably be able to read through in between some lines. So I want to thank Craig on the other side. I want to thank all of you who tuned in live. I want to thank all of you who listened in the podcast feed. So until Thursday, when Kinker's back in the lead chair, I've been Russ Joy. I continue to be Russ Joy. I'll talk to all of you Tuesday morning on the Russ Joy Show. Until then, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.